Welcome to Emily Crochet. Today we're going to be continuing our series on how to make a bag. Specifically, we are making a bag using tapestry crochet. In the last video, we went over how to follow a colorwork chart and change colors within a row. I'll link that video below for you so you can check it out if you haven't seen it. Today we're going to start in on what to do once the crochet work is done. So if you'd like to follow along with the entire series, please subscribe. And while you're at it, you might as well go ahead and like this video too. You might as well, right? This is the bag we're going to be working on today. We'll be using this bag for the whole series. I do sell a kit to make this bag on my website, which will also be linked below. Everything we're going to be using to put this bag together comes with that kit. So I highly suggest checking it out if you think you might be interested in making this particular bag. All right. Now let's get down to the nittiest of the gritties. So again, this is after the crochet work is mostly all done. I have the front of the bag here and then the back of the bag. And the first thing I like to do is I'll set this one aside. Sometimes with tapestry crochet work that works in rows, you get some of these bald spots, I call them, that kind of look like skipped stitches. Those are just places that where the main stitch is on the back. You especially get this when you are working kind of at a diagonal, like the whiskers on this cat. They kind of go at a diagonal. And when you do that, you tend to get these little skipped spots here. I like to fill those in because to me, they don't look all that great. It doesn't make the bag look as polished as it can be. So in order to fill that in, I just take a tapestry needle. Here is my ginormous tapestry needles. Got that on Amazon. This also comes with my kit in its ginormous size. And then I just fill it in with the color yarn that I'm going to be working with to fill in my gaps. So in this case, of course, it's black. And to do that, I'm just going to go in here and kind of just pop some stitches in there. I'm going to go in from the back because I'm going to leave a tail. And I'm looking at the area. I'm going to fill in this first bald spot here. So I'm just going to kind of go in from the back. And if you are ever done cross stitch or embroidery, you're familiar with this technique. I'm going to leave a bit of a tail at the back so I can weave it in later. And then I'm just going to go down here. And I'm going to make kind of like an X, like I said, with cross stitch. Let me get that out of the way. And just fill in that gap a little bit. I still have some gray showing right there, so I'm going to do another one. And you just kind of keep going until you fill in the gap. You don't want too much over there, but I don't like that showing. All right, there you go. We kind of have it solid there now. So I'm just going to move on to the next one and do the same thing. Just creating this X to try to fill in that gap some. All right, that one looks good. And I'm just going to move up here and do the same thing right there in that bald spot. Then I'm going to go to the other whisker and fill this in. And you'll see how much better it looks afterwards when I'm done. All right, that looks a little better. There are still a few little areas there, but I'm not too concerned about those. There are also a few areas on this whisker. Again, not too concerned about those. They're not as bald as these two whiskers were. So I'm satisfied with that. Looks a little cleaner to me. I'm looking everywhere else and I don't really see any large gaps. So we're good to go. I'm just gonna pop my needle out and leave the rest of that tail back there to be woven in with the rest of this monstrosity. And speaking of weaving in, let's flip this over and see what we are in for. Yeah, that's a bit of a nightmare. I don't know about you, but I detest weaving in ends. It is something that you can do while you're just watching a bit of TV or listening to music or an audiobook or a podcast or all of the above because there are so many freaking ends on this bag. But no, I don't really. I try to do as little of that as I possibly can. And how do I do that? Well, here's the secret. This bag is going to be lined. So because it's going to be lined, I'm not really concerned about what the back looks like. And so my shortcut to a lot of this is to tie these jokers off. All the ones that are very near to each other, they are just ripe for being tied off. And then what do? I cut it, leave about, I don't know, 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch. Cut that one a little short, but leave about 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch of a tail after you cut it, and then just leave that knot there. Again, nobody is going to see this because I'm lining this bag. If you're not lining your bag, you might be a little more persnickety about how you finish it off on the inside, but I ain't too bothered by it. So I'm going to go through tying off as many of these ends as I possibly can. That's going to make my life easier, a lot quicker. And also, you know what? I kind of feel like the tied off ends are more secure because woven in ends, they always seem to weave themselves back out to a degree. Like after you handle the bag, you use it a bunch, you wash it, they just kind of work themselves back out and you end up snipping. And then eventually you get a hole in your stitches. This way, that is not going to happen. These ties are not going to work themselves loose. They are secure and good to go. So I'm going to continue tying off over here. There are going to be some I have to weave in, granted, because they're all by themselves, like this one here. But that's going to be a whole lot less than this. So I'm going to continue doing that, and then I'm going to do the same over here. Not much over here, so I'll probably end up weaving most of that in, and then we'll come back and see where we are. Okay, I have tied off and woven in just about everything I can on both these panels. Just got a few more strands to weave in, and behold my scraps. If anybody knows anything useful to do with yarn scraps, please put it down in the comment box for all of us, because a true yarn enthusiast don't like throwing away nothing. We want to use all of it. I thought about like getting into yarn scrap painting, which very well may be something I just made up. But then again, maybe not. In either case, I probably wouldn't be very good at it because I'm not good at painting. So, nah. Gonna get the last one woven in over here. And then we will be ready to commence our final step for this video. Again, I hate weaving in, so my technique is probably not very great, which might explain why I feel like my woven in ends tend to pop back out. But I am trying to be quite shallow because I don't want that to show through on the other side. That's good enough. Ain't nobody got time to be fooling with no weaving in. Let's pop that back out, make sure I'm not stretching it. Snip. Everything goes in the pile. I know, this is a really pretty mix. I'm going to save this somewhere. Never to be seen or heard from again. Alrighty, so we have our two panels. Let's just turn this over and bask in the prettiness that is a well crocheted piece. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Can't wait to finish it off as a bag. All right, so the last step we're going to indulge in today is putting this thing together. We are going to sew it up and actually turn it into a bag. To do that, you are going to line up your right sides. Make sure they're kind of even with each other. My back panel is a tad bit larger than my front panel. I'm not too worried about it though, because it's all going to even itself out when I sew this thing together. I'll make sure of it. So, of course, I'm going to use the same color as the main color of the bag to sew this up. Just going to cut myself a nice long piece of yarn. Long enough to go around the whole bag. I hope that's long enough. Pop that into my ginormous tapestry needle. Now, the one advantage to having a tapestry needle that is like super long is that it has a giant eye, and it is super easy to slip your yarn in there without spitting it down, because that's gross. Especially if you plan to like sell a bag that you make, which if you buy one of my kits and make the bag, you are more than welcome to sell it. Give it away, do whatever you want with it. But yeah, you don't want to be giving anybody a bag with spit yarn in it. So I am going to start always in this like top left corner. Gonna line up those corners and then make it go down just to make sure we're pretty much even. Start right in that corner. Going to pop my yarn in. Leave a decent tail. I'm leaving about 6 or 7 inches of a tail. And then just like with regular sewing, I like to secure my corners because they're the ones that tend to get a lot of wear and tear. So I'm going to go right back in that same general area one more time. Pull the yarn through. And then while there's still a bit of a loop left on the yarn, I'm going to put my needle through that loop, pull it through, create something of a knot, and that will secure that corner pretty well. See, it's not going anywhere when I tug it. And now my preferred method for seaming these together, you can use different methods, whichever one you like. You can slip stitch it together with the crochet hook. You can single crochet it together. That's going to give you a really strong bond, but it also adds a bit of thickness. I am just going to do a straight stitch, just like if this were needle and thread and this were fabric. I'm going to do a straight stitch. So I'm going in underneath, right like underneath the stitch there, not too far down, but also not right at the edge because I don't want there to be any gapping. Then I'm going to put my needle through just enough to come back out the other side, just like that. Now you want to flip it over occasionally to make sure that your needle penetrated through both sides. And I don't know if you can catch that, but the needle is poking out on that other side, which means it got both panels. And then I'm just going to pull my needle through. Make sure my tail isn't stuck in there. Then I'm going to go through maybe 1/8 of an inch away from where that other stitch is coming out, because I don't want my stitches too far apart. Again, that will cause gapping. And do the same thing. Once again, I'm just going to check and make sure that needle penetrated both sides. You can also feel it with your finger if you put your finger back there. And then pull it on through. I'm going to go straight down doing that exact same thing. Super simple. And this part, unlike weaving in ends, I find to be rather calming. As you get towards the middle, you just want to stop and straighten your bag out again to make sure that those two edges are still going to meet. If they don't, because one panel is slightly smaller than the other, maybe just stretch it. Stretch it a little bit. Don't stretch it a whole lot, but just kind of do this. It will automatically stretch it and those two ends will meet. And once you sew it together, it's a done deal. It's not going to shrink up again or anything like that. Once you sew it together, it's together. So crochet is extremely stretchable. You can always make those ends meet if you have to. So I'm at the first corner, and again, I like to reinforce my corners because they tend to be stress points. So I've gone through and done one stitch. Now I'm just going to go straight back through the back. Just like at the front, I'm going to wait until there's a little loop left, pop my needle through that loop, and then pull it through to create a knot. And that is a nicely reinforced corner. Let's flip this over and keep going. Let's just do a quick measure up to see if this is going to be, and like I said, little wonky at times, that's okay. I'm gonna make it line up. Just as long as your corners line up, you can kind of work with everything else. Make sure when you are going, you're not pulling your stitches too tight. I'm going to show you what happens when you do. I'm going to pull this really tight. Do you see that? That's not a good look. You want that to stay pretty straight. So don't pull too tight. You want to pull kind of taut because you want your stitches to be nice and strong, but too tight and you're going to pucker up. You will really, if you're not used to sewing crochet together, you'll get a hang for it. The minute you kind of pull and see that tuckering, you know to even it out. Just kind of flatten it, smooth it out with your finger, and keep going. All right, we're coming up on the last corner here. And between you and me, quite honestly, this is some of the shoddiest stitch work I have ever done. But don't tell nobody, you didn't notice? We had to do a whole lot of adjusting to get this to look half decent, but that's okay. Sometimes it bees that way. You can fix it, it's fine. All right, we just reinforced our last corner. And now I'm gonna take what's left of this and sort of just weave it down the side here. Right outside where the stitches are. That way it doesn't show it all on the front. Weave, weave, weave. And just a little bit more. Because I can't tie this off, I want to make sure it's nice and tucked down there. All right. Now I'm going to cut this and leave something of a tail. Again, this is going to be lined, so it's fine. But I like to leave a tail at first, just in case I find that I have to take this loose. I'll easily be able to find where this is, unknot it, and then take it loose. Which, because of my shoddy stitch work, I may have to do. We'll see when we flip it inside out. I'm going to go back to the beginning and weave that tail in the same way, just going down the side a bit. All right, that's good enough because I'm gonna leave the tail, so. All right, here's our moment of truth. Will I have to take this loose and stitch it again because it's all wonky? Let us see. We are going to flip this. I mean, you can kind of see it here, but again, that's okay. As you use the bag, that will even itself out. So I'm going to flip this over inside out, really, starting at the corners. Just kind of poke that in and then flip it and reverse it, as the ladies say. All right, I'm gonna go back over to the corner, poke my finger in there to kind of get the corner out, and then I like to take my finger and drag it along the seam, just like that, to kind of smooth that out. I'm gonna do the bottom the same way, just drag it along the seam a little bit, poke out that corner, and then drag it along the seam coming up. Like I said, just to kind of even out the seam. It's the equivalent of if you were sewing and you flipped the seams and ironed them down to me. All right. We a little bit wonky. We a little wonky, but it came out okay. I will take that. All right. So we have got the makings of a bag. At least it's starting to look like one now. Awesome. Look at that. Oh, let's flip it. Let's flip it. Let's flip it. Oh, look. Noise. Like I said, that back, that bottom is bothering me a tiny bit, but I'll get over it. I'll get over it. We will get over it. All right, that is it for today's video. We got our bag all put together. I'm going to continue the series in the next video, and in that one, pray for me, y'all, because we're going to be working online in this, and that's going to involve some sewing. And your girl is not a seamstress, but I do what I have to do. So we're going to work it out together in that next video. Thanks so much for joining me today. And if you want to keep following the series, remember to hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification button so you can get updates on when I upload, because your girl does work a lot and she don't upload as consistently as she wish, but I'm working on it. So give me grace, y'all. If you have any comments, questions, just want to say, hey, want to compliment me on my jewelry, anything, just comment below. If you want to talk about my wonky, shoddy stitch work, you ain't saying nothing I don't already know, but go ahead, give me some tips. I'll take them. Give me some tips with all of this. I'll take that too. And I will try my best to respond to you. No matter what you say, I'll respond. And I'm always respectful, so don't worry about that. We're not going to argue. My shop is linked below. So again, if you want to check that out, this kit, other kits, some cute crochet supplies are in there. So give it a look. I highly recommend it. Now go make things, all the things. Have a blessed day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.